Welcome, everyone. I'm Shasta, co-founder of Brown Bag Lit, and today we are presenting Sara Lippmann. Sara Lippmann is the author of the novel Lech, Tortoise Books, and the story collections Doll Palace, re-released by 713 Books, and Jerks, Mason Jar Press. Her fiction has been honored by the New York Foundation for the Arts, and her essays have appeared in The Millions, The Washington Post, Catapult, The Lit Hub, and elsewhere. With Seth Rogoff, she is co-editing the anthology Smashing the Tablets, Radical Retellings of the Hebrew Bible for SUNY Press. She teaches with the Writing Collab and lives with her family in Brooklyn. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with all of you, and thank you for spending your lunch break with me. So I was thinking that we would do an experiment today, and I don't know. I mean, I've been reading. Here's my novel is called Lech, as Shasta said. I've been reading from it quite a bit since October, and I was thinking that perhaps in the spirit of experimentation, we would do something a little bit different, which is if some of you have been in one of Shasta's classes that and you read a short story of mine from many years ago that appeared in Monkey Bicycle, and it centers around a historical event that in my hometown outside of Philadelphia in the spring of 1991, when Senator Heinz' private plane collided with a helicopter and fell on the grounds of my nearby elementary school, killing everyone in the aircraft, as well as a couple of children who were there during recess. And so I wrote a short story about it, which some of you might have read with Shasta. And then that short story, even though it was, I think it was published probably almost 10 years ago. I don't remember, but it kind of sat with me for a while. And so it has become now sort of the fulcrum point of a new novel project that I'm working on. And it's shifted in its sort of, obviously in its context. The narrator has completely changed in terms of who she is, but it still is sort of this driving force, this beat, because I have found myself unable to sort of shake this interest in sort of our experience with proximal trauma and sort of public trauma, and particularly from a period, I mean, obviously now this is, we've become almost like inured to it because it's, every day another shooting, every day, and but in this time period of 1991, this is pre-Columbine, this is pre-9/11, this is sort of the first, for my experience, it was sort of the first exposure to sort of a public trauma with a public, sort of response to it. And so it's been something that I've been like really thinking about. And now it's in the context of this new book, which is dealing also with the narrator, who has a very private trauma in that she is involved with her longtime best friend's father. So I think that I was going to read that story, and then I thought we could talk maybe a little bit. I mean, we can talk about everything, failure, persistence under the sun, but also this idea, as I know a lot of you work in multiple genres, how do we move from story to novel, and letting those story ideas perhaps take on different legs, different growths, and also this larger question that's something that I'm struggling with as well, which is how to incorporate a historical event and honor the history and be sensitive to the history while also utilizing it in the realm of fiction. So those are things that are just kind of fresh on my mind. So, I mean, that was sort of a lengthy preamble. If people really want me to read from my novel, I can, but I thought this could be a more fertile conversation for all of us. So if that sounds good, then I'll go ahead and read this. So right now, I'm not going to read the story. I'm going to read how it currently how it currently appears in this novel. And the novel takes place over 2 time periods. One is in 2008 in Philadelphia, and one is in the late 80s and early 90s outside of Philadelphia. Like I said, then our narrator has this best friend named Sally Sellers, where you're going to hear the scene. She's in high school. Her relationship with Sally has, turned toxic and competitive within the realm of, typical high school girls. They are both messing around with the same guy and so forth. They were both competitive runners, but it also has this darker undercurrent that the narrator, is holding this secret about her father, which she believes at least that Sally is not aware of. So I think that's pretty much all you need to know. Oh, and that Sally's family's kind of really adopted her as one of their own. And Sally has a younger brother who was at this who attends this elementary school. So that's pretty much all you need to know. So I'll read it and then we can chat. The day the 2 aircraft collided over Marion Elementary, we went to Eric Frank's after school. Eric's mom lived behind the high school parking lot and had an open door policy. The basement latch was left unhinged like a troll door, or else the key under the mat, honor system. Whoever had last period free stopped at the gas station for chips and sours and drinks. Sometimes there would be actual pizza among the empty boxes. We pick at the hardened strings of cheese, chew a disc of pepperoni. We were always hungry, but also not. Eating was just something to do, like holding a joystick or a blunt or a dick, mindless, without purpose, easy to get sucked in. Occasionally, a quarter keg clunked down the stairs. By spring of our senior year, we'd given up team sports. I don't know if Sally was trying to stick it to Len is her father, or just feeling lazy, feeling the ends of things, the dried bits in a bag of beef jerky, like there wasn't much left or worth saving. What she did was her life. I was not her keeper. I'd known Eric since elementary, when his mother used to raft a bunch of us together with a single seatbelt for school carpool, a big help to Rosie. Rosie's the narrator's mother, sorry. Back then, his hair was the color of tang and cut in a bowl, poker straight, like the wind could knock all the seed pods off the gum tree and his hair would still swing to its rightful place. Eric's parents split sophomore year, his dad donning an ascot and moving to Old City, his mother going back to school to find her calling, she said, when Rosie and I ran into her in the grocery. Her eyes watered up as she said it, and I felt bad, like someone should tell her she was barking up the wrong tree. When has anyone ever found anything at school? Custody was a mess, she said, but Eric's sudden popularity, spurred by his independent / newly unsupervised home situation, filled her with pride. High school has been good for my boy. He has all these friends. By contrast, things had been harder for Mrs. Frank, although not as hard as they were for Mr. Frank. If our town resisted change, it resisted people like Mr. Frank, who loved how he loved even more. The basement was already half full. Seniors claimed the couch, a clutch of girls in stiff hair and leather, sprawled over the lazy boy like kittens. Sally was there, but she wasn't talking to me. Billy Fish was there too, but I was used to it. When we got bored enough or stoned enough or restless enough, we'd reach for whomever, elbows at side boob, thighs mashed but limbs loose, limbs like earthworms before dissection. I had had bio last period. Mr. Keller trailed me with his garbage can as I cleaned up the labs. Earthworms were skin breathers. They were male and female. He smelled like formaldehyde. Earthworms were also blind. I removed the pins from wax boards and deposited their bodies, wrinkled and cold, like used up voodoo, like string beans left on a dinner plate. Have you seen Eric? I said. People looked up, nodded.
Hey,
They either
how's it
knew
going?
or didn't know.
Beth.
Sorry, they said.
You show up sometime.
It's not that Eric was
I could call
ugly
him.
so much as shapeless, out of shape. I could lap him and phys ed if I wanted, but that was not my kind of want. The kid was the opposite of Len Sellers. Terrible case of bong acne, red and blotchy around his jaw. No one made out with him, and he was resigned to it, to not being kissable. Sometimes he got a hand job. That day, the girls in the basement were new. I'm not even sure we attended the same school, if they went to the other high school, if they were still in junior high. They accordioned together to make room, but I didn't feel like sitting next to them. Not then, not after the news. Everything cool? Billy ran his tongue along the rim of a rolling paper. I could smell the resin off his fingers, the grit beneath his nails. I could feel his eyes beneath his swoop of hair. He and the other guys hunched over the coffee table, sorting the seeds onto a Tits magazine. The cover model had a scratched-in mustache, ink blots of milk dripping from her. The guys MacGyvered bongs from plastic leaders and pen casings in aluminum foil. It wasn't that we didn't have paraphernalia. It's who wanted to pull a pipe when you could smoke a potato instead. Let's go, Sally said without looking my way. She meant Billy, meant the laundry room. The laundry room was where people went. Eric's machines were puke yellow and the floor poured concrete, damp as clay. They could have it. Once, Eric hoisted me up on the dryer and turned it on. We were barely messing around, but I could tell from the way he lifted me by the hips with that ringworm grin, that clown mouth, that he thought he'd been giving me a big gift. Here he was, expecting something. The machine shook beneath my thighs like it was ready for takeoff. The floral fabric softener made me want to sneeze. Well, nope, I told him. Without Len, I was going nowhere. No wind-up in my toy. I felt nothing, numb, but also high. I swung my legs, my knee poked through a hole in my jeans. Damaged goods, I said. Not to me, he stuck out his hand, but I didn't need any help hopping down. When Billy Fish said, I'd shelve you, it was different. His voice gruff and sexy, like I was a trophy maybe, but also get it on account of my size. Clever Billy. I could be a collector's item. I could collect dust. I could be animated at will. Had I seen the size of his shelf? Did I want to? The problem was Sally believed in possession, believed incontrovertibly that certain people belong to each other. People need to believe things. In our town, people believed in promises the way they believed in safety and belonging. They believed what you see was what you get. They did not get too close. They relied on a club mentality. You had to be there, they said, or simply location, nod, finger snap, I've got you covered. With Billy, I'd rapidly be uncovered, shirt off, my excuse for a bra bunched up like fishing line, too light for bait, too small to catch hold, thin enough to snap in his grip. In a minute, Billy said, without looking at Sally, which enraged her. Sally was so pretty. He peeled a cigarette and refilled it with shake. Again, he licked, eyes on me. You sure? The clock on the basement wall was busted. Eric's parents got it with the proofs of purchase from their 12 packs of Pabst back when they were still a family. When the bowl came around, I took it. I smoked and passed, careful not to pull twice, an unspoken rule, though I could have sucked the whole thing down. What a goddamn day. I tossed out my bag, tight and sweaty from my front pocket like a bonus boner. Another rule, we pooled our weed. What we lacked in quality, we made up for in quantity. Some of us had cars, but we were socialists with dope. No one mentioned the plane crash, as if we hadn't heard the loudspeaker, distant sirens, our principal's report, the senator, a ketchup tycoon, children in the field. We were good at making every day seem like every other day. On the TV, Nintendo beeped and pinged as Mario leaped on mushrooms. CDs clicked, yes, bled into Nirvana. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered it. It wasn't our house. Dry tape dotted the wood paneling like Tetris. Bald scraps where a poster once was, a Corvette or Julius Erving, the painted members of KISS. The basement had no windows. I looked over at Sally. Hard to believe she didn't go straight home to her parents, to Len and Elaine, to Neil. What was she doing? What were any of us doing? After a while, it was hard to know how long we'd been there. The basement smelled like the inside of a pocket, a sleeping bag left out in the rain. Dirty socks, even though we kept our shoes on. A Jewish thing, Sally once said. Shoes only come off when you're mourning the dead. When Eric finally arrived, his eyes were glazed over, lids puffy and red like he'd been crying, or else he was mega fried. He punked to the floor, propped himself against a sofa leg. His tied flannel fanned out from his waist like a skirt. What did I miss? We were on to smoking apple cores. I slid down next to him. He was shaking all over. His little sister, missing, then found. In the day's confusion, everyone had forgotten she'd been homesick with their father the whole time. Strep throat, cartoons on the couch. Still, he said, I can't stop imagining how it might have been different. Eric had tried to get close to the scene, but the entire elementary was cordoned off. Fuselage burning, a lone wheel. 50, maybe 60 children out playing when the fields caught fire, scattering debris of eyeglasses, barrettes, monkey bars. Bodies melted like precious metals to be reformed, hardened into totems, made impossibly durable, meant to last. One kid said it looked like the war coming home. Eric choked on tears. Billy and Sally blew smoke into each other's mouths. I thought about Sally's brother, Neil, staring out his classroom window with those bottomless eyes. Eric lowered his head into my lap, his hair no longer straight nor red, but swirly and unwashed. I patted like he was an animal in from the cold. He shivered, his face all blotched and ugly. I don't care what people say, he said. You don't come out the same after a thing like that. Maybe. I leaned down to kiss him, but at least you come out. Okay, thanks. That was that story that's now in this novel in a flashback.